Seo's at his engagement party, standing next to a gorgeous woman who's about to be his wife. A group of guys are watching them, sipping wine and talking about how their relationship seems more like a business merger than a love story. One guy's griping about his business expansion plans hitting a speed bump while his friend tells him to stay positive. Turns out, Seo's the head honcho at Seo Holdings, a big deal in pharmaceuticals, distribution, and hospitality. His fiancée, Yoon is the brains behind Taejoon department stores, a company that's been ruling the distribution industry for ages. No wonder the other guy's miffed. Meanwhile, Seo finds himself at the bar during his own engagement party. He's in deep conversation with his assistant, ensuring that all the reporters are being escorted out efficiently. Just then, a familiar face saunters up. It's one of his buddies. The guy can't help but point out that Seo's not exactly beaming like his soon-to-be-wife, Yoon, or as he fondly calls her, Sweetie. Suddenly, Seo is hit with a bit of a headache, which has his friend worried. The cause? Well, turns out Seo had a bit of a rough night. His pup, Sebastian, passed away, so he spent the entire night at the villa dealing with it. His buddy's taken aback. After all, Seo's never been the sentimental type who would prioritize a pet over his own engagement celebration. But Seo explains that it wasn't just sentiment, he needed to take care of Sebastian's remains before decay set in. Quite the pre-engagement party activity, huh? After surveying his party, Seo decides he needs a breather and tells his assistant he's stepping out. Despite being reminded that he's in the middle of his own celebration, Seo coolly responds that the guests will manage just fine without him. And off he goes, leaving his buddy and assistant exchanging puzzled glances. Back at the bar, his friend probes Lee, Seo's assistant, for any sign of a problem at headquarters. But Lee assures him that work is just fine. In fact, he adds, Seo's been acting a bit offbeat for the past 4 years. Cue a flashback to 4 years ago. Seo fell seriously ill, shocking everyone who knew him as the guy who never even caught a cold. Even his doctor was taken aback, noting that Seo's condition took a nosedive when he heard news of a certain woman's death. Fast forward to the present, and Seo's friend is curious about this mystery woman. Lee, however, pleads ignorance, saying that's Secretary Young's department. His friend can't help but wonder about the woman who could leave such an impact on Seo, even 4 years after her demise. Meanwhile, Seo's outside, enjoying a smoke when he spots a woman who looks eerily like Jin Hae-yeon, his lost love. He tries to follow her, but she's already hopped into a cab and driven off. Left in the wake of her departure, Seo's left mulling over what just happened. He knows she's gone, but he could swear he just saw her. Was it all in his head? It felt too real, too vivid to be a mere figment of his imagination. Seo, not one to let a mystery go unsolved, quickly jots down the cab number as the woman disappears into it. He then turns to his buddy, asking him to pull up the guest list. He's determined to find her before she vanishes again. His friend isn't exactly thrilled about this sudden detective work, but humors Seo, scanning through the list for any sign of Jin Hae-yeon. No luck. Suddenly, a remembered snippet of a phone conversation sparks an idea. Seo recalls the woman mentioning something about a canceled reservation. He asks his friend if there were any no-show guests. His friend confirms that 2 foreigners, Christopher Sean and Louis Ernest, had indeed backed out at the last minute. But those are men's names, so Seo speculates that one of them could be her partner or husband. A pang of jealousy hits Seo. If Hye-jun were still around, she'd be 29, an age where having a partner wouldn't be out of the ordinary. But the thought of her with someone else doesn't sit well with him. So he decides to dig deeper, asking his friend to get someone from the security room to check the lobby's CCTV footage. His friend balks at this, pointing out the potential rule-breaking and subsequent issues they might face. Seo simply shrugs, telling him that any problems can be directed to the board of directors. This leaves his friend stunned, unsure of how to respond to Seo's audacious request. But he makes the call, emphasizing that it's a directive from the managing director, Seo Taejoon himself. Intrigued, his friend asks Seo if the woman he's so desperate to find is the one who died 4 years ago. Seo is momentarily taken aback and questions how his friend knows about her. His friend admits that Seo had mentioned her before. Seo confirms it's her, leaving his friend shocked at the length Seo is going to for a woman who's no longer alive. His friend jokingly suggests that maybe she's returned as a ghost to haunt the engagement party. Seo quickly shoots down this idea, stating with certainty that she isn't a ghost and definitely not desperate. He adds, somewhat regretfully, that if anything, he was a curse to her. Seo's mind then drifts back to his first encounter with Jin Hye-yeon 4 years ago. He recalls noticing her rough hands and wondering about her line of work. Their initial awkward silence was broken when she brought up an offer she had made. Seo corrected her, saying that her father had proposed a different deal. Confused, she insisted there must be some misunderstanding. Seo decided to clear things up and dialed Mr. Jin. After explaining the situation, he handed the phone to Hye-yeon. She accepted it hesitantly, her hand trembling as she listened to her father's words. Whatever he said clearly left her rattled. Fast forward to the present, and there's Seo, staring at a picture of a woman in a hotel lobby. A man by his side fills him in on the tragic past of Jin Hae-yeon. She had passed away years ago, and her family had her cremated after the funeral. This revelation leaves Seo in a state of confusion. He can't shake off the feeling that he had seen her earlier. But could he have been mistaken? There's only one way to find out. Seo shares the cab number that the woman had taken with the man and hands him over the picture, instructing him to match it with the CCTV footage. As the man leaves, Seo lights up a cigarette, murmuring Hye-yeon's name aloud. Dial back 4 years, right after Hye-yeon's conversation with her father. Seo presents her with a contract, a year-long agreement for the purchase of Jinsung Hotel, which seemed fair considering the hefty sum he was paying. As Hye-yeon scans through the contract, she points out that their verbal agreement isn't mentioned anywhere. The terms were more than what she had initially offered. Seo then invites her to his house, leading her to question if they are supposed to live together or even be in a relationship. He tells her he needs her, but to him, she feels like a puppet named Jin Hye-yeon. Back to the present, Seo finds himself pondering over Hye-yeon's words from their past encounter. Later, he wakes up in the middle of the night, gasping out her name. He realizes that dreaming about her could mean she is still alive. Looking at the CCTV image of the woman on his TV screen, he thinks to himself how well Hye-yeon seems to be doing, looking like someone who doesn't need him at all. He perceives her as the woman who fell into the abyss, only to pull him out of it. Rewind to 4 years ago when Hye-yeon agreed to the contract. Seo told her that she would have to move in with him and abstain from seeing other men. He then asked her if there was anything she wanted. Jewelry, designer items, a car? She responded by saying she didn't like the smell of cigarettes. Back in the present, we see Seo tossing his cigarettes into the trash. The next day, Seo's friend Lee Jae-won heads to Seo's fiancée, Si-yeon's office with a package. As he reaches for the doorknob, the woman Seo had seen in the hotel lobby exits the office, almost bumping into him. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, she walks away, leaving Jae-won wondering about her identity. Just then, Si-yeon calls out his name, curious about the package. Jae-won explains that the package is an engagement gift from his mother. This news excites Si-yeon, who eagerly leaves her desk to take a closer look. As she admires the gift, Jae-won's attention is drawn towards a picture of an artwork on Si-yeon's desk. She tells him it's a sculpture by an American artist named Roy Jean, which she purchased while remodeling the VIP lounge. Despite Jae-won's lack of artistic sense, he finds himself intrigued by the sculpture, leading Si-yeon to explain that it's about the story of Apollo and Daphne. Apollo, the sun god, who's a total knockout and a smarty pants to boot, falls head over heels for Daphne, a forest nymph, thanks to a love arrow from Eros, the god of love. But here's the kicker. Daphne gets hit by an anti-love arrow, leading her to friend-zone Apollo. Despite Apollo's relentless pursuit, Daphne opts to turn into a laurel tree just to escape him. Talk about extreme measures. This heartbreaking tale is captured in the sculpture titled The Heart of Apollo. Jae-won can't help but think that the missing half of the sculpture must be Daphne, reminding him of the mysterious woman he met earlier. Curious, Jae-won asks Si-yeon about this mystery woman. Turns out she's not an employee at the department store, but Roy Jean's assistant named Han Yuri, who popped in to oversee the installation of the artwork. Si-yeon playfully accuses Jae-won of having a crush on Yuri, but he quickly denies it. However, Si-yeon insists that Yuri is right up his alley, tall, slim, and fair-skinned. Jae-won then grumbles about the perils of having an old friend who knows too much about your past. As he leaves, Si-yeon tells him to forget about Yuri, hinting at rumors of Yuri being involved with Roy. Jae-won reluctantly acknowledges that Yuri does fit his type. Meanwhile, Seo's investigator hits a dead end with the taxi driver, failing to recall any details about the woman in the photo. The investigator is convinced of Hye-yeon's death, recalling how they lost contact with her during Seo's business trip to Europe and later learned about her unfortunate demise. Just as he's pondering over the mystery, he receives a shocking text message. He then meets up with the pathologist who performed Hye-yeon's autopsy. The pathologist confirms that Hye-yeon is indeed dead, but admits that her death was peculiar. She drowned, but her lungs weren't filled with water. Further investigations were blocked, and her family hastily cremated her body. This revelation fuels the investigator's suspicion about a bigger conspiracy behind Hye-yeon's death. That same night, we see our infamous Yuri waking up from a dream where a faceless man was kissing her. Relieved it was just a dream, she reaches for her medication. It's revealed that Yuri suffers from psychogenic amnesia and has no memories from the past 5 years due to a traumatic event. Her doctor, Dr. Davy, suggests hypnotherapy as a way to retrieve her lost memories by overcoming her trauma. If life were a jigsaw puzzle, Yuri's would be missing some pretty important pieces. There's this guy who keeps popping up in her dreams, a mystery man she's never met but feels oddly familiar. She can't shake the feeling that he's the missing link to her past. But what if those memories aren't all sunshine and rainbows? What if they bring more pain than peace? It's like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. She wants to know the truth, but she's terrified it might shatter her world. So, to avoid another surprise visit from Mr. Dreamy, sleep has become her enemy. Instead, she dives into work, using it as a distraction. As dawn breaks, she wraps up an email and hits send. Her phone rings. It's her boss, Roy. She picks up, surprised he's up so early. He echoes her sentiments and asks if she's had another panic attack at her new place. You see, she was supposed to stay at the Sion Hotel, but a sudden seizure had her packing her bags. Yuri assures him that her current place isn't the issue. It's just another pesky nightmare. Roy then asks her how it feels to be back home after so long, hoping it might jog her memory, but she shrugs it off and quickly steers their conversation toward work. After a while, Roy brings up the man in her dreams again, asking if she's still sketching him. She admits she hasn't been able to, with work taking up most of her time. She also firmly reminds him that she's in Korea to reclaim her lost memories, not doodle. After hanging up, she stares at her hands, once skilled at creating beautiful art, now seemingly useless. Meanwhile, the investigator sent by Seo is replaying his conversation with the pathologist. The cause of Hae-yeon's death, the possibility of reopening the case, and the cold response from her family. He concludes that the woman in the picture can't be Hae-yeon. Over at Taejoon's holdings, Seo and Si-yeon are deep in a work-related conversation when Jae-won walks in with food. He had dropped by to give his mom a present and decided to join them. Si-yeon immediately goes into foodie mode, talking about the dumplings while Seo remains quiet. They continue discussing work over dinner, and Jae-won can't help but wonder how these two ended up engaged. Jae-won then notices Seo splitting his dumplings and asks why. Seo mentions it's too hot, and Si-yeon adds that he always runs hot, even preferring iced coffee in winter. Then it hits Jae-won. The dumplings were Hae-yeon's favorite. When Si-yeon questions why Seo used to buy them if he didn't like them, Jae-won quickly changes the subject to the exhibit in his hotel lobby. With a mischievous twinkle in his eye, he floats the idea of featuring Roy Jean's art at their next exhibit. As the name is mentioned, Seo rises abruptly from his chair, announcing it's time to call it a day. Jae-won, ever the joker, teases them about needing to up their happy couple game. Si-yeon, intrigued, questions why Jae-won would pick Roy Jean when his gallery is brimming with local talent. His response? A tax investigation has him focusing on foreign artists. Plus, his mom's a fan. Si-yeon, however, suspects another reason. Yuri, Roy's assistant. Meanwhile, across town at Taejoon, Yuri wraps up a meeting discussing the Heart of Apollo sculpture. The staff member, eager to make her feel welcome, gives her a lunch voucher for the department store's food hall. As Yuri tucks into her dumplings, she's hit by a wave of nostalgia. She used to have these dumplings with her dad. She then catches herself splitting a dumpling in half and has a mini freakout. Why did she do that? Then, a vision of her dream man uttering, "It's hot," flashes before her eyes. Back in Seo's office, his investigator delivers the grim news. Hae-yeon is confirmed dead. Despite digging through university records, he found no trace of her. Seo, flabbergasted, questions if he even checked the right university. The investigator assures him he did. Frustrated, Seo exclaims that everything about Hae-yeon seems to be a lie and orders him to track down her family pronto. Meanwhile, as night falls, Yuri wrestles with her thoughts. Her memory is slowly returning, but it's scary. What if she uncovers something she's not ready to face? As she drifts off to sleep, she dreams of a girl named Hae-yeon. In the dream, they're in her painting room, and Hae-yeon's complaining about the paint smell. She asks Yuri to cover for her at the hotel for a few days so she can go on a trip with her boyfriend. After some bargaining, Yuri agrees. Hae-yeon showers her with gratitude, outfits her with a uniform, and advises her to stay healthy to fight against their professor. She promises to bring Yuri a present from her trip and leaves her to get some more sleep. As Hae-yeon makes her exit, Yuri finds herself sinking into a sea of thoughts. It's funny how life works, isn't it? One moment, she's dreaming of becoming an artist, getting accepted into Korea's best art school, and winning an exhibition that could take her abroad. The next, she's playing house in someone else's home instead of splashing vibrant colors on a canvas. All this while her dad had taken out loans to help her chase her dreams. And the cherry on top? It's all down the drain, thanks to a certain professor that Hae-yeon had warned her about. An unexpected lump forms in her throat as she gazes at Hae-yeon's hotel uniform. She quickly brushes away the tears threatening to spill over. She might be living in the past, but she has no plans of being bossed around by that professor again. When she makes her grand entrance at Jinsung Hotel, the staff instantly recognize her as Hae-yeon's stand-in, affectionately referring to Hae-yeon as their princess. As she settles in for her 3-day stint, she can't help but notice the name tag on her shirt, Jin Hae-yeon. We're back in the present, and it's the next morning. Yuri wakes from a dream that wasn't about Mr. Dreamy for once. Instead, Hae-yeon was the star of the show, making her first appearance in what feels like forever. Yuri pulls up Hae-yeon's social media profile, only to find her last post dates back 4 years. News of Hae-yeon's family's bankruptcy had made headlines, but Yuri is puzzled why Hae-yeon never reached out. Yuri's mind starts racing. Could she have lashed out at Hae-yeon when her dad passed away and her art career hit a roadblock? Is that why they're not friends anymore? Just as she's about to drown in her sea of thoughts, her uncle calls, urging her to return to the US once she wraps up her work. He shoots down her idea of visiting her old place and shares a chilling story. When he learned of her dad's death, he rushed to her house, only to be greeted by a bunch of strange men and even a cop. They warned him to back off, and he did. Unable to find Yuri, he arranged for a place to stay. To his surprise, he found Yuri at his doorstep the next day, bruised and beaten. She had lost an entire year's worth of memories. When Yuri asks how she found him, he drops a bombshell. Hae-yeon might have been the one who guided her to him. Now that's a surprise. As the day unfolds, Seo receives a visit from a man who's been hot on the trail of Jin Hae-yeon's family. With an air of mystery, the man spills the beans about his latest findings. Hae-yeon's father, Jin Myung-jae, met an unfortunate end after his construction company went belly up. The plot thickens as he reveals that the old man's demise wasn't a natural one. Nope, it was more sinister. He was unalived, and the perpetrator is still out and about. To add to the intrigue, Hye-yeon's brother has pulled a disappearing act. He's gone off the radar and might take some time to track down. The detective, ever so optimistic, assures Seo that it's only a matter of time before they find him. With a tip of his hat, the man promises to keep Seo in the loop and bids him farewell. Left alone, Seo plunges into a sea of thoughts. He thought he knew Hye-yeon like the back of his hand. Her likes, dislikes, habits, her taste in books and food, even how she blossomed in his embrace. He flicks open and shut his lighter, lost in thought. Where did it all go wrong? Rewinding back 5 years, Seo stumbles upon Yuri in his hotel room, engrossed in some task. With his usual brusqueness, he startles her with his abrupt, "What are you doing here?" Before she can explain, he grabs her hand, ties it behind her back using his tie, and proceeds to scan the room with a detector. When it stays silent, he quips about her not having time to install cameras and wiretaps yet. She manages to explain that she's looking for something a guest left behind, showing him a necklace on the floor. Noticing her name tag, he asks if she's the hotel owner's daughter. She confirms, albeit avoiding eye contact. With that, he unties her and lets her be. Watching her leave, he marvels at the thought of Mr. Jin, the old fox, having a daughter like her. Thus began Seo's acquaintance with Hye-yeon. Back to the current night, Seo dreams of a passionate encounter with Hye-yeon, but when he calls her by name, she corrects him, claiming she's not Jin Hye-yoon. Waking up, he contemplates their love. So intense yet shrouded in mystery, not even knowing each other's real names. He wonders if she feels the same. Meanwhile, Yuri is mulling over her uncle's revelations. The circumstances of her father's accident seem suspicious, her teetotaler dad running into the road drunk. She starts jotting down everything she knows. Determined to piece together her lost memories, she resolves to find Hye-yeon, who could be the key to unlocking her past. Stepping outside, she hails a cab and heads to Jinseong Hotel. The cabbie, glancing at her through the rearview mirror, casually mentions the hotel's bankruptcy and its new identity as Seo in Hotel. Arriving at the hotel, she's taken aback by the changes. The grandeur of Jinseong Hotel was a thing of the past. A staff member approaches her, but she dismisses him and leaves, reminiscing about the good old times. Next, she visits her old residence, hoping to find Hye-yeon there. But the changed nameplate on the gate dashes her hopes. Disappointed but not surprised, she walks away, wondering where to find Hye-yeon. Suddenly, she hears someone calling her name. It's Chief Kim Hyun, a former staff member at Jinseong Hotel. Kim seems unsurprised by Yuri's return and suggests catching up at a nearby cafe. Yuri finds it odd that Kim knew she was back in Korea and decides to play along, eager to dig deeper. Meanwhile, in the sleek confines of Seo's office, his investigator hands him a file that could change everything. The woman from the CCTV footage, it's Yuri. He explains that Yuri's father was once a chauffeur for Jin Myung-jae, which meant she practically grew up in the CEO's house, becoming very close with his daughter. Plus, he adds, Yuri often filled in for Hye-yeon at the Jinseong Hotel. As the details sink in, Seo recalls his first encounter with Yuri, realizing that their story might have begun much earlier than he thought. So, where has she been all this while? Seo asks, trying to piece together the puzzle. The investigator paints a somber picture. Both of Yuri's parents passed away, leaving her to live with her uncle in the United States. Her mother lost her life serving in the military, while her father died in a car accident. The timing of her father's death coincides with her sudden disappearance, which leads Seo to recall that Yuri seemed rushed on the day she vanished. Switching gears, Seo asks about Hye-yeon's brother, Jin Hye-sung. With a triumphant grin, the investigator reveals that he's already got him under lock and key. Meanwhile, Yuri is enjoying a pleasant dinner with Jae-won. He shares stories of his childhood in New York and his frequent visits since his brother resides there. To his surprise, he discovers that Roy's studio is near his brother's house. Yuri shares that she too has a gallery in the city, though it houses only a few of her artworks. She warmly invites him to visit the next time he's in town. Their conversation winds down, and Yuri thanks Jae-won for his kindness. He extends an invitation to get to know each other better before she leaves the country. Despite her reluctance, Jae-won takes it in stride, not wanting to pressure her. Later that night, Seo visits the secured location where Hye-sung is being held. The sight of a disheveled Hye-sung is jarring compared to his once polished appearance. As Hye-sung bombards him with questions, Seo calmly asks about Yuri, the woman handed to him by Hye-sung and his father. When Hye-sung doesn't answer, Seo fires a bullet into the wall behind him, sending a clear message. Terrified, Hye-sung reveals what he knows. Yuri is the driver's daughter, and she's now living in the US with her uncle. When Seo asks why Yuri ran away, Hye-sung deflects the question back at him. He even accuses Seo of forcing Yuri to stay by his side. Ignoring his outburst, Seo questions him about Yuri substituting for Hye-yeon. Hye-sung claims it was for money, but Seo knows better. Yuri isn't materialistic. Hye-sung then claims that it's all Seo's fault that Yuri has found herself in this mess. An intense confrontation ensues, ending with Seo shooting Hye-sung in the shoulder. As Hye-sung reels from the surprise attack, Seo coolly instructs his men to tidy up the place. He then turns to leave. Just as he's about to exit, Hye-sung decides to throw one last curveball. He warns Seo that if he does manage to find Yuri, she might just deceive him again. This prompts Seo to spin around, gun pointed at Hye-sung. In a moment that's equal parts suspense, drama, and tension, Just then, Seo pulls the trigger, shooting Hae-sung in the heated moment. He then quickly instructs his security to get Dr. Yang on the line as he coolly exits the scene. Meanwhile, our heroine, Yuri, is having another steamy dream about the mysterious man. Waking up, she's slightly flustered by the dream and decides to take a leisurely bath to calm her nerves. As she soaks in the tub, she contemplates the upcoming installation of Apollo's heart, marking the end of her stint in Korea. Suddenly, a flash of memory hits her, Hae-yeon falling into the river. The shockwave of the memory forces her to connect the dots between her father's death, Hae-yeon's tragic end, and her own memory loss. Shaken, she dials Roy to discuss the installation. He advises her to return to the States once it's done, but Yuri tells him she plans to stick around in Korea to piece together her fragmented memories. The next day, Seo finds himself lost in thought, watching the rainfall from his office window. He toys with his lighter, contemplating Hae-sung's words. A memory surfaces, the fatal incident during Jinsong Construction's Star Road project that led to a suspension, a mountain of debt, and the sale of Jinseong Hotel to Seo. He recalls the negotiation with Mr. Jin, the CEO of Jinsong. An unexpected condition was put forth by Seo, a meeting with Mr. Jin's daughter, Hae-yeon. Now, Seo realizes that Yuri was forced to impersonate Hae-yeon, a realization that leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. His train of thought is interrupted by a call from his informant in New York. He learns that Yuri lives in East Village with her uncle, works closely with renowned artist Roy Jean, and is currently single. The news that Yuri might be in a suspiciously close relationship with Roy stirs a pang of jealousy in Seo. The informant adds that Yuri is on a business trip at the HQ of Seo's fiancée, Si-yeon. Seo decides he's going there. At Si-yeon's office, her assistant informs her that the installation of Apollo's heart has been completed. Overjoyed, she heads out to check it out, only to find Seo standing at her door. After a brief exchange, they decide to check out the newly installed artwork together. As they ride the elevator to the VIP lounge, Si-yeon comments on Seo's sudden interest in Roy Jean's work. He casually mentions his interest was piqued that morning. When they reach the lounge, Seo inquires about the installation coordinator, who turns out to be Roy Jean's assistant. With a cryptic remark about the assistant being alone, Seo leaves Si-yeon puzzled about his strange behavior. In the swanky VIP lounge, Yuri snaps a photo of the sculpture. Her job here is done. She ponders over the man who's been haunting her dreams, the one she met during her therapy sessions, the one who she believes is the key to unlocking her lost memories. As she's lost in thought, Si-yeon makes an appearance, admiring the sculpture with a sparkle in her eyes. Yuri wonders if she should sketch the face of the man from her dreams as a way to find him. And just as she thinks this, she looks up, and there he is. The man from her dreams is standing right in front of her. She's so startled she drops her tablet, but Mr. Dreamy, aka Seo, catches it with a swift move, handing it back to her with a caution to be careful. Before she can react, Si-yeon introduces him as her fiancé and the executive director of SEON Group. Yuri repeats his name in her head. It's new to her. She introduces herself as Han Yuri, Roy Jean's assistant, and hands Seo her business card. When he asks whether Han Yuri is her real name, she confirms it is and suggests that he probably mistook her for someone else. Seo assures her they're meeting for the first time, but Yuri senses he knows more than he's letting on. There's a familiarity in his gaze that she can't shake off. Changing the subject, Seo suggests they all grab lunch together, hinting at his interest in discussing some art purchases. A surprised Si-yeon checks with Yuri, who gives the green light. As they dine, Yuri can't help but feel Seo's intense gaze on her. She wonders if there was a past connection between them, and if he could be the man from her dreams. His constant scrutiny makes her feel like a deer in headlights. When Si-yeon inquires about the food, Yuri manages to comment on its deliciousness despite feeling slightly dizzy. Si-yeon suggests a quick visit to the infirmary, but Yuri brushes it off as a common occurrence. Their conversation takes a turn when Seo probes about Yuri's tenure with Roy, bringing up his knowledge of Roy's mental slump following his wife's death 3 years ago. Yuri dismisses his insinuations. She's heard these rumors before, and she's clear. Roy is her boss and mentor, nothing more. Seo apologizes for his rudeness, and they continue their meal. As they chat about Yuri's own artwork, she suddenly drops her fork, prompting Si-yeon to suggest they call it a day. Seo watches as Yuri stumbles out of the restaurant, looking as if she's seen a ghost. In the elevator, Yuri is gripped by a sudden panic attack. Could it be because she just met the man of her dreams? Literally? She thinks she needs to leave, but just as the doors are closing, Seo steps in, telling her to quit playing games. As he strides towards her, she backs away, only to crumple into his arms. Seo rushes Yuri to the hospital and watches over her as she sleeps. In her dreams, she's being chased by unidentified men, causing her to wake up in fright. Seeing her distress, Seo asks if she's okay. Overwhelmed, she clings to him, stammering out apologies as he looks on, confused yet concerned. Caught off guard by the sudden display of emotion, Seo hesitates for a beat before reciprocating Yuri's hug. Meanwhile, back at Si-yeon's office, her assistant hands over the digestive medicine she'd asked for. Seeing her discomfort, the assistant can't help but ask if the lunch didn't sit well with her. Si-yeon dismisses it, attributing it to an awkward eating position, and half-jokingly wishes Seo could be as considerate as Jae-won. When the assistant questions whether she really needs to marry Seo, Si-yeon replies matter-of-factly that it's a strategic move. Aligning herself with the successor of management rights is the strongest position she could be in. Back at the hospital, a whirlwind of emotions sweeps through Seo. Ever since he learned Yuri survived, he'd imagined countless scenarios of their reunion, rehearsing what she might say to him. He'd been nursing a grudge, believing she'd cheated and left him, and planned to make her pay slowly. But seeing her so vulnerable, clinging onto him, he finds his anger melting away. He checks in on her, offering to call the doctor, only to be met with her apologies and a surprising address. She's called him Roy, not Seo. This blatant mistake stings him. Annoyed, he orders her to look at him, querying if she recognizes him. She stammers out a confused response, prompting him to jog her memory about the elevator incident. When she continues to draw a blank, he bluntly asks why she disappeared 4 years ago. As he questions her, Yuri wonders if her missing memories involve him. She admits to not remembering him, which leads to an exasperated Seo asking if she's suffering from amnesia. When she confirms it, he curses under his breath, instructs her to wait for his call, and storms out, leaving a bewildered Yuri behind. As she settles back onto the bed, Yuri can't help but wonder what's up with Seo. She's taken aback by his rudeness, especially since she'd thought they were lovers in her dreams. Just as she's about to leave, the doctor walks in, proposing to run some tests. She politely declines, citing urgent work, and asks about her bill, only to be told it's been settled. Was it Seo? She wonders. On checking her belongings, she realizes her tablet is missing. She asks the doctor if she left anything behind, but he assures her they've handed over everything. She recalls Seo's parting words and can't help but wonder what game he's playing. The next afternoon, we see Seo engrossed in his clay shooting session, taking down each flying plate with impressive accuracy. Once he's done, his buddy hands him a water bottle, while Seo removes his noise-canceling headset and passes over the shotgun to his companion. As he drinks, he casually inquires about Hae-sung, and his friend informs him that Dr. Young has wrapped up treating Hae-sung. Seo's New York contact, known simply as Jay, dials in just then. As he picks up the call, Jay drops a bombshell. Yuri is a frequent visitor to a psychiatric hospital. Intrigued, Seo insists on accessing her medical records, but Jay chuckles, reminding Seo that those records are strictly for doctor's eyes only. But this minor roadblock doesn't deter Seo. He knows Jay's modus operandi isn't exactly legal, and it's likely this refusal is just a ploy to hike up his fee. So Seo assures Jay he's willing to pay whatever it takes. As night falls, Hae-sung lies in bed, swathed in bandages covering the injuries Seo inflicted on his right arm and stomach. As he stares blankly at the ceiling, memories from years ago flood back. He recalls watching a news report on the catastrophic Jinseong construction disaster involving the Star Road project. The newscaster reported that Jinseong Construction had committed arson, resulting in the tragic death of more than 10 people. Public outrage ensued, demanding justice and punishment for Jinseong's construction. Mr. Jin, unfazed by the news, switched off the TV and poured himself a stiff drink. Still reeling from the news, Hae-sung urged Mr. Jin to come clean to Seo about Yuri and Hye-yeon. Instead of responding, Mr. Jin cryptically told him to pass the glass. His request left Hae-sung puzzled. Suddenly, Mr. Jin erupted in anger, ranting about his mounting debts. All Hae-sung could do was stand there, trembling. Now, as he lies in his bed, Hae-sung can't shake off the feeling that Yuri left him because of Seo. The next day, we find Yuri engrossed in her computer screen, sifting through Seo's personal details. She wonders aloud about his affinity for dogs and why on earth he would swipe her tablet, which contains all the crucial materials for her final report. Just as she's about to delve deeper into her research, her phone rings, displaying an unknown number. The moment she hears the voice on the other end chastising her for picking up late, she knows it's Seo. She wastes no time in grilling him about her missing tablet, demanding its return. In response, he instructs her to come collect it from room 3001 at the Seoin Hotel, then promptly hangs up. As she stands to leave, a sudden headache strikes, causing her to wonder why she's been experiencing these bouts of pain lately. Fast forward a couple of hours later, and we find Yuri arriving at the Seoin Hotel. As she makes her way toward room 3001, she recalls Chief Kim mentioning that a man had been looking for her and had brought along a CCTV image from this very hotel. Could this man be linked to Seo? And more importantly, could Seo have anything to do with Hye-yeon's demise? As she arrives at the door of room 3001, a wave of familiarity washes over her. She can't shake off the feeling that she's been here before. Despite her unease, she reaches out and presses the doorbell. The door swings open to reveal Seo, who gestures for her to enter. But Yuri stands her ground at the doorway, insisting that Seo return her tablet before she steps any further. Seo, nonchalant as ever, strolls back into the room, leaving the door open with a casual invitation for her to join him inside. She hesitates, but eventually follows him in, repeating her demand for her belongings. From his comfy perch on the couch, Seo glances up at Yuri and playfully asks if she'll continue the charade of not recognizing him, causing her to admit to a blank spot in her memory. However, Seo dismisses this as a joke. She insists that she's serious, explaining that she's lost a year's worth of memories. Seo, however, remains skeptical and suggests she might be conveniently suffering from selective amnesia. She further explains her doctor's theory about a traumatic event triggering her memory loss, but still, Seo doesn't buy it and accuses her of making excuses. Frustration mounting, she passionately declares her genuine memory loss. But despite her earnestness, Seo remains unimpressed, expressing his disbelief at her audacious confidence. Seo then lets his mind wander back to their hospital encounter. Yuri had apologetically embraced him, and he'd thought that would have been enough. Now, as Yuri repeats her plea for her tablet and urges him to stop misunderstanding her, he chuckles at her threat to call his fiancée Sion. He even offers to dial Sion himself, which triggers a painful memory for Yuri. She recalls when her study abroad opportunity was snatched away, and she'd turned to her professor's wife for help, only to be dismissed as delusional. Holding her phone tightly, Yuri feels a wave of despair. She fears Sion will side against her too, prompting her to abandon her quest for her tablet and decide to leave. But Seo isn't about to let her walk away just yet. He stands, calling her name and pulling her back by her shoulders. She spins around, demanding to know why he's treating her this way. She also asserts that even if they had a past, it's over now, but Seo counters this, reminding her of her proclaimed memory loss. Yuri flashes back to their encounter in the VIP lounge, admitting that she remembers at least that much. She repeats her question. Why is he mistreating her? His response is simple. He knew her as Jin Hye-yeon. She opens her mouth to respond, but she suddenly collapses. Seo rushes to catch her, calling out her name as she loses consciousness. He lays her on the bed and realizes she's running a high fever. He quickly dials the doctor who'd treated her at the hospital, asking him to come immediately. He also questions the doctor about Yuri's condition, but the doctor confesses he's unsure, given that Yuri had refused to undergo tests during her hospital stay. The doctor suggests checking Yuri's bag for any medication or prescriptions, and as Seo rummages through her belongings, he comes across a bottle of pills that leaves him taken aback. When the doctor arrives, he takes one look at Yuri's temperature reading, and his eyebrows shoot up in astonishment. What on earth happened? He asks, turning to Seo for answers. But Seo shrugs, explaining how she suddenly passed out mid-chat and spiraled down into her current feverish state. He then hands over the bottle of medicine he found in her bag. The doctor squints at the label, quickly recognizing them as psychiatric drugs. Once he finishes treating Yuri, he turns serious for a moment, stressing the importance of keeping a close eye on her due to the alarming spike in her temperature. He mentions sending a nurse over, but Seo volunteers to take on the responsibility himself. The doctor looks surprised, clearly not expecting the usually aloof Seo to play caretaker. Seo then asks the doctor a million-dollar question. Can someone lose memories of a specific person for a certain period? The doctor nods, explaining it could happen if the psychological shock is intense enough. Still on the topic of recovery, the doctor maintains that it's a bit like predicting the weather, largely dependent on the patient. After the doctor leaves, Seo steps out onto the balcony for a breather and dials Jay. As soon as Jay picks up, Seo jumps straight into business, asking about Yuri's medical records. Jay responds, papers rustling in the background, that he's just started digging into them, and it might take a while. He mentions that Yuri has a rather complicated disorder, hence the mountain of counseling material. When Seo asks for the name of the disorder, Jay reveals that it's psychogenic amnesia. He explains it's a memory disorder triggered by psychological factors, not a physical issue with the brain. In Yuri's case, it seems she's hit the memory equivalent of a delete button for a certain period. After ending the call, Seo heads back to Yuri's room. He approaches her sleeping form and gently tucks her in, ensuring she's as comfortable as possible. He whispers to the unconscious Yuri that he's going to trust her, at least for now. Meanwhile, Yuri is dreaming. She's saying farewell to a man whose face is hidden in shadows. He asks her to ponder over his words, and she promises to give him an answer when he returns. The next day, as the morning sun creeps in, Yuri's eyes flutter open. She has a strange sensation, as if a memory fragment tried to poke through. She glances around, confused. Where is she? As she sits up, her gaze lands on Seo, sleeping peacefully at the edge of the bed. This causes her mind to spin with questions. What happened last night? Then she notices the unfamiliar white cloth draped over her. Definitely not hers. Deciding to explore, she starts to rise from the bed, but just as she's about to step away, Seo's voice stops her. Feeling better? He asks, noting her sweat-soaked state. He offers a bottle of water, which she accepts with gratitude, downing it as though she's been stranded in a desert. All the while, Seo watches her closely. He then moves closer, his touch gentle as he checks her temperature. Fever's gone down, he announces, leaving her momentarily lost for words. Yuri pulls away, her tone defensive as she asks about her clothes. Seo explains that she had been sweating buckets, so he had to change her. She wraps her arms around herself, questioning his boldness to undress her. But with a calm demeanor, Seo points out that she had passed out mid-conversation, and her fever had skyrocketed, leaving him no choice but to care for her throughout the night. Then, gathering her thoughts, Yuri decides to pick up where they left off before her sudden collapse. She asks him about his claim of knowing her as Jin Hye-yeon, and he responds that she was the one who told him that she was Jin Hye-yeon a long time ago. This leaves her puzzled. Why would she lie about her identity? Seo wonders aloud why she felt the need to go to such lengths when they had been living together for a year. The revelation leaves her shell-shocked. Seo then tenderly touches her face, reminding her of their past passion. In a bold move, Seo leans in, his lips inching closer to Yuri's. Her heart flutters, and she gazes back at him. But just as they're about to seal the moment with a kiss, a voice shatters the romantic bubble, announcing that breakfast is served. Talk about a mood killer. The buzzkill? None other than Mr. Lee, standing at the door like an unexpected guest. Seo, obviously annoyed at the interruption, demands to know why he's on his doorstep, given that he didn't remember summoning him. An unfazed Mr. Lee reminds Seo about the feast he had ordered for their shared breakfast. He then notices Seo's rumpled appearance and can't resist asking if he pulled an all-nighter. Seo fires back, wondering aloud if Mr. Lee has too much time on his hands and suggesting a week-long assignment might curb his nosy tendencies. Mr. Lee chuckles at the retort, taking the hint to make a swift exit. But before he can, Seo swiftly shuts the door, leaving a perplexed Mr. Lee on the other side, wondering about Seo's unusual behavior. Back in the room, Seo suggests they dig into the breakfast that's awaiting them, but Yuri asks if Mr. Lee has already left. Seo looks surprised, curious as to how she knows Mr. Lee and how she recognizes his voice. Yuri, arms folded, casually mentions that she met Mr. Lee at this very hotel, and they had dinner while discussing art. Seo offers to let Mr. Lee know he's in her company, but she brushes it off, stating Mr. Lee doesn't need to be privy to their private matters. She then pivots the conversation to the whereabouts of her clothes. As Seo heads for the dining area, he teases that the mystery of her attire will be revealed post-breakfast. She can't help but scrutinize his take-charge attitude, but her growling stomach urges her to follow him to the table. The dining spread looks inviting, with a variety of dishes, gleaming glasses, and a generously filled jug. As Seo spoons out some soup for her, he casually drops a bombshell. He's decided not to proceed with his impending engagement. The news leaves Yuri momentarily speechless, her spoon frozen midair in surprise. The scene transitions, and we find Yuri luxuriating in a jacuzzi, lost in the warmth of the water. She struggles to reconcile with the idea that she once harbored romantic feelings for Seo, the prodigal heir of the Seoin group. Yet, there's a certain liberating joy in not being able to recall their past, even if it feels like the universe is playing a cosmic joke on her. As she reclines against the edge of the jacuzzi, something, or rather, someone, draws her attention. It's Seo. She yelps in surprise, instinctively shielding her body with her arms and legs. Unfazed, Seo explains his intrusion as an act of concern. He doesn't want her fainting again if left unattended. He steps into the bathroom, casually asking about her illness and lack of appetite, but she's not exactly thrilled by his unexpected visit and insists she's perfectly fine, practically nudging him towards the exit. Seo comments on her reaction, noting it's as if she's a stranger to such situations. She fires back, saying she has zero recollection of any such instances. And frankly, his presence isn't just uncomfortable, it's downright exhausting. Seo retorts that she should at least maintain her health if she's planning to keep up this standoffish charade, pointing out that she's alarmingly thin. He offhandedly mentions that he's never been a fan of skinny girls, which seems to elicit a positive response from her. Seeing this as an opportunity to create some distance between them, she gleefully agrees, saying it's great that she's not his type, but he clarifies that he's dead serious. Once she's done soaking, she asks him for a towel, and he obliges, passing her a fluffy towel, and the scene fades out on this awkwardly intimate encounter. Fresh from her bath, Yuri settles comfortably in the center of the bed, engrossed in her phone. Just then, Seo strides into the room, looking sharp in a black and white suit. He checks up on her, asking if she's feeling any better, and she responds with a nod and a soft, "Much better." Her attention still split between him and her phone. Seo then breaks the silence by extending a bag towards her. Inside, she finds her tablet and a fresh set of clothes. He suggests she might want to change. After all, they've got plans to check out of the hotel. When he adds that he'd like her to accompany him somewhere, curiosity piques her interest. Bag in hand, she asks where they're headed, and his response lights up his face with a warm smile. They're returning to the house they once shared. She's taken aback. That old place still exists? Seo reassures her that it does, untouched and waiting for them. The thought of visiting their old home stirs something within her. Could it hold the key to unlock her missing memories? As Seo steps towards the door, he tells her to get changed so they can hit the road, but she stops him with a question that's been nagging at her. Why is he going through all this trouble for her when there are plenty of other women in the world? He turns back, locking eyes with her, and tells her that he doesn't need another woman. She's the one he wants. His words hang heavily in the air, leaving her to grapple with the possibility that she might indeed be his lover. While she mulls over this, a memory flashes through her mind. It's Seo, just before he left for some tour. He had asked her to consider something important, promising to hear her answer when he returned. Now, she struggles to remember what that question was and what her answer would be. Meanwhile, Seo has made himself comfortable, patiently waiting for her to get ready. As she steps out, dressed and ready to go, she asks about the clothes she was wearing when she first arrived, and he tells her he's had them washed. Closing the distance between them, Seo asks if she's ready to take a trip down memory lane, to their old house. The next scene opens with an inviting spread of dishes gracing the table. Seo encourages her to eat up, especially since she barely nibbled at her food earlier. His plan is to hit the road as soon as they're done eating. She appreciates his thoughtfulness, gracefully taking her place across from him at the table. Despite the tantalizing array of food, she seems less than enthused. Seo picks up on her lack of appetite and offers to send back the dishes. But she quickly clarifies. It's not that the food isn't appealing, she just doesn't have a big appetite. He then asks if she's up for a chat, which she sarcastically assumes must be about her slim figure and his preference for a different type of physique. Undeterred, Seo urges her to pick whatever dish catches her fancy, and as he tucks into his meal, he passes her a plate filled with a dish from far-off lands. Intrigued, she takes a bite and instantly brightens up. It's delicious. This culinary surprise makes her wonder how he knew her exact clothing size. Could it be because they were once an item? Seo simply encourages her to continue eating, and she obliges. The scene then shifts to a parking lot where the pair get into a car. Yuri confesses that she only enjoyed the food because he was there, causing him to wonder aloud if this is her usual eating habit, and her mood dips as she admits she doesn't typically eat much. She then pulls out a small bottle, prompting him to ask what it is. In response, she explains it's her medication. She needs it as she feels a tad lightheaded. But Seo reacts instantly, grabbing the bottle from her and advising her against depending too much on medicine. She tries to snatch it back, but he points out that she barely ate, and her hands are icy cold. He then tosses the bottle aside, emphasizing that something warm might be a better solution. She's not thrilled with his suggestion and makes another attempt to retrieve her medicine, but he seems unfazed by her reaction. She finds herself wondering why she's in a relationship with a man who always calls the shots. She shoots him an angry look, but he remains cool and composed. Is it his good looks, she wonders, or is there some other reason behind his behavior? The scene then changes again, this time to a house with a car parked outside. Everything seems hazy to Yuri, as if she's on the brink of reclaiming her lost memories. A sudden pang in her head leaves her disoriented, unsure where to go next. Just as she's trying to collect her thoughts, a knock on the car window shakes her out of her reverie. It's Seo commenting that it looks like she had a good sleep. He then announces that they've arrived at their destination, the house they used to share. As she walks alongside Seo towards the house, Yuri reassures herself that this is the same house from her dreams. But as she steps inside and takes in the room, a familiar sensation hits her like a bolt of lightning, and she crumbles into unconsciousness, collapsing into Seo's arms. As she tumbles into his arms, he checks in, asking if she's okay. Inside the room, a majestic black and white dog named Sebastian stands guard, a taxidermy masterpiece. Seo asks if it's her first time seeing a taxidermy animal before introducing Sebastian as an English pointer, a breed known for its intelligence. If you recall, Seo has mentioned Sebastian in the first chapter. Intrigued, she can't help but ask if he was the one who trained the dog, and Mr. Lee, who's also present, beams with pride, as he confirms that he's been Sebastian's trainer since puppyhood. When she probes further, asking why he chose to preserve Sebastian through taxidermy, his answer is rather unusual. He explains that he wanted a constant presence, something that would always be his. As they step into the stunning parlor, he casually slips his hands into his pockets, giving her free rein to explore the immaculate house. The cleanliness of the place is striking, prompting her to wonder how he's managed to keep it in such pristine condition over the years. Her curiosity gets the better of her, and she asks about her old bedroom. He points her towards the second floor, where her room awaits. But the surprises don't stop there. There's also a studio tucked away in the attic. This revelation sends a wave of excitement coursing through her. She can't wait to see this mysterious studio. Once inside the studio, she finds everything neatly covered with large cloths. Unable to resist, she pulls the cloth off one of the hidden pieces. The sight that greets her is nothing short of breathtaking. The room is filled with countless pieces of art, each one stirring deep emotions within her and lifting her spirits. Seo watches her reaction closely, asking if anything is starting to come back to her. She admits that her memory isn't entirely back, but she can't shake the feeling that this place is familiar. His smile broadens as he tells her that the studio is her favorite spot, a place where she loses herself in her art. Once she starts painting, he says, it's almost impossible to tear her away. Despite his words, her memory remains stubbornly elusive. Undeterred, she decides to explore some more, hoping to uncover something that might trigger her lost memories. With his blessing, she continues her exploration of the house while he heads downstairs to wait for her. As she continues her exploration, she stumbles upon a collection of unfinished artwork. Among the pieces, she finds a sketchbook on a table and begins to leaf through its pages. Much to her surprise, she discovers a drawing she'd made. It's a portrait of Seo casually leaning on her shoulder. A wave of realization sweeps over her, and she understands that those dreams she's been having weren't just figments of her imagination. They were snippets of the love story she was a part of. Overwhelmed with emotion, she hugs the sketchbook close, cherishing this tangible link to her lost memories. But then, a question pops into her mind. Why would Seo keep her personal belongings if he thought she was no longer around? She recalls an old custom she'd once heard about, the tradition of burying the departed with their cherished possessions. Lost in thought for a moment, she eventually figures it must have been an act of love on his part. After all, she still keeps her parents' belongings, like their family photo. The stunning artwork around the studio brings her a similar sense of comfort and joy. Snapping back to the present, she decides to delve deeper into her past with Seo. As she descends the stairs, the image of the first painting she saw flashes in her mind. But when she steps into the parlor, she finds it empty. Remembering that Seo had mentioned her bedroom was upstairs, she heads back up. As she opens the door, she finds him there, laid back and sipping wine in his nightwear. Seeing her, Seo calls out her name, causing her to hesitate. It feels as though she's walked in on a private moment, but he reassures her that it is indeed her room, and he moves closer, trying to rekindle their past intimacy. Feeling a bit uneasy, she opts to retreat to the attic for the night. She makes it clear that any closeness they shared in the past is just that. in the past. Right now, she needs space and time to process everything. Time for what? He asks, taken aback. She meets his gaze and replies assertively, time to adapt to you. He agrees, but with one condition. She must genuinely make an effort to adapt. He points out that there's no use avoiding the situation now. She nods in agreement, promising to do her best even though the future seems uncertain. Later that night, as Seo bids her goodnight, she lies awake in bed, mulling over how she ended up sharing a bed with him. The uncertainty of her situation and the challenge of adapting to this new reality fill her thoughts as she drifts off to sleep. It seems there's a lot of drama just waiting to unfold. Want us to continue this story? Comment Yuri below. Also, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and of course, subscribe. Until next time, ciao!